inspire.
Welcome back to Starting Now. I'm your host, Jeff Sarris. This is the show where I talk to entrepreneurs and creatives of all types to reveal the unexpected paths to entrepreneurship and where they are today. Today, my guest is Bridget Merkle. Bridget is a self-taught, multidisciplinary artist who recently went all in on the Solana blockchain and NFTs. She was able to leave her job, her full-time job, and both through doing commissions, auctions, and building this community around Solana and onboarding and helping other artists find their way, she's found her lane and collectors and community that's allowed her to go full time. It's a great story, and I really think it's going to be inspiring for you, especially if you're an artist and curious about NFTs and other options other than the standard Ethereum blockchain, which right now is very expensive to get in because of gas and other fees. Well, this is a great conversation. Without further ado, my conversation with Bridget Merkle. You're really prolific on Twitter Spaces. It feels like you're doing a lot of them, which is awesome.
I am. I try to jump in just like whenever I see one. They can be like so distracting, but I'll just put it on while I'm doing art. And it's been something that's helped me network and meet people and get my ideas out there and hear a lot about other people's ideas. So I try to do it as often as possible, but try not to like get sucked in and like waste so much time doing it. So sometimes I just have to like disconnect, you know?
Oh yeah, it makes sense. I mean, it's a tough balance because you want to be a part of the community, but you're also running your business, doing your creativity. And it's so hard. Like when people are talking, sometimes maybe it's not the lane you need to be in, depending on what you're working on, I assume.
Right. Yeah. I did a Twitter space last night with a couple of my friends. I'm friends in real life with a couple of artists that I've onboarded and are like now doing like auctions and stuff, which is awesome. I did a space with them last night and I was like drawing the whole time. But I joined one today and it just like, I don't know, it just wasn't the vibe. So I turned it off and turned on my meditation music and like zoned out for a little bit.
For sure. Do you typically create art with meditation music a lot of times?
Yeah, sometimes, I mean, I'll put on like just normal like Spotify playlists or different podcasts and stuff like that. But sometimes like if I really want to get into the zone, sometimes the music, like the words or even just like what the music like evokes in me will be distracting. And if I just want to be one with the art and I'm feeling like I'm having a day that I'm so easily distracted, I just want to shut everything off, I'll just put on meditation music. And that helps me like get in the zone when I'm having trouble with that.
Yeah, I think it's really important to find the thing that gets us like centered like that. Because I have some playlists on Spotify as well, and different things that it depends on the mood, depends on what I want to achieve and where I want to go with my day, with my afternoon, whatever. So yeah, really important to find that lane. So just to sort of dive into Pink Skull, just what would be sort of your elevator pitch of you, Bridget, and who you are as an artist and what you're doing today? We'll go all over the place with the conversation, but just sort of to encapsulate everything right up front.
Okay. I don't really know because I don't like to like pitch myself or sell myself. I kind of just like to create my art, and if it attracts people, then they're attracted to it, and if not, then that's fine, you know, take it or leave it kind of thing. But to give myself like a brief introduction, I am a multidisciplinary portrait artist. I've been creating art on like a more serious scale for about 12 years, since I was about 14 or 15. And my main medium now is either like acrylic painting or digital art. And I focus on a lot of portraiture of people, and I can do animals. I don't do a lot of that, but I am really fascinated with like anatomy, human anatomy. And so I draw a lot of skulls, skeletons, and try to like expand my knowledge, I guess, of anatomy and just like the human form through doing that. And I like to, I don't know what it is. I don't know what draws me to like creepiness. I guess it might have been my like conservative upbringing, but I like to have like a shocking, disturbing kind of element to it as well. Like there's a bit of like morbidity and I just like weirdness. I don't even know how to like explain it really, but people like will, I don't know. It's just like a little freaky.
Yeah, maybe just a little
But
macabre. Just a hint. It's
yes,
not a
yeah, that's the
bunch.
word. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's the word. Yeah, just like a hint. It's not nothing crazy. I have done some pretty like weird, gory looking stuff, but it's like not that often.
Yeah.
But I like to like combine a person and a skeleton and like a skeleton exposed, stuff like that. Yeah.
And I was just going to mention that because the pepper painting that's
Oh
half cat,
yeah.
half skull, I
Yes.
love that. That is just, I don't know what it is about that one. I mean, I guess I'm a cat person, so I have a cat too. And
Yeah.
like, I don't know, I just really like that. I love that juxtaposition of sort of his or her face and then the skull underneath.
Yeah, I love that too. And that was actually I made that into like an NFT. I like had digitized it. My friend helped me like digitize it. I sold that, but it's also a painting. I have it on my wall, like right up there. And I had also made that into like stickers and t-shirts when I was trying to like before I discovered NFTs and I was like really trying to hustle with my art. And that was one of the ones that people either really loved or they were like, oh my God, it reminds me of my dead cat from when I was a kid. It reminds me of Roadkill. So I was like, oh my gosh. So I kind of like it evokes some kind of response, I guess, which is like part of the point. But yeah, that one's like a really popular one.
Yeah, for sure. And
Sometimes I never know what's going to be popular, so it's a little surprising to me. But
oh yeah, I think that's a really good point too. You don't know. You don't know till it's out there because you're creating something from within you. But until people really see your vision or what you've put together, it's so hard to know what's going to land.
exactly.
Yeah. So, with that piece, you mentioned that you made an NFT. Is that the one that is glitchy, or is there also a still version?
So it's hard to remember because my first ever NFT, I think I minted it a couple of times and there was mistakes made and it wasn't showing up. And I ended up sending it to the person who had won like the auction. They had won the auction and then nothing showed up in their wallet. So I'm not entirely sure. I believe it's like it was made into like a GIF that like glitches it. So there's a
Mhm.
difference between like what that person received as an NFT and the actual painting, the stickers and the t-shirts that I've done. So yeah, it's like a glitched video, I think, or they might have received a still with like some glitchiness in the background. I can't exactly, I'd have to check on that.
Oh yeah,
It
for
was the
sure.
first NFT. I made it in a coffee shop with my friends. I was like, what am I doing? Like it was, yeah.
No, but it's awesome. So you were doing, like you mentioned, 12 or 13 years, or you've been doing it since you were like 14-ish,
Mhm.
creating art consistently. Where would you say, what was your inflection point of making this sort of your full-time, like your main focus in your life? Because from what I saw, like just sort of doing little research into like you and everything you've been doing, I saw it seemed like what was it? The Lake Worth Painting Festival was like a big moment. Yeah, so it seemed like that was a big sort of shift in your life. And I was just sort of curious to dive in sort of to the origin story and maybe leading up to the point where you went all in and you're like, okay, this is me.
Yeah, I honestly think that's could have been like the turning point for me because I always at first like for the first few years that I was creating art I didn't know whether I wanted to call myself like an artist or not. I didn't know whether I had skill or not, and as I continued to do these events and these art shows and things like that, I got a little bit more of like, okay, wait, like people are telling me that I'm good so I must be good kind of thing. And there was a period of time, there have been periods of time where haven't done art in those 12 years. It hasn't been consistent. But when I did the Lake Worth Street Painting Festival, honestly, like I was at a point a few months prior before I had applied where I just wasn't creating that much art. I was like here and there, but I had all this like imposter syndrome and I was extremely jealous of other artists that I saw. I didn't know how to turn that jealousy into motivation to make my own stuff. And I was just like paralyzed by my own like perfectionism, basically. So I apply for the street painting festival. I get in, it's like this huge thing. And it was this like huge moment. That festival draws like 100,000 people a year normally pre-COVID. And so I just got to create something for like 8 hours a day for 2 days straight in front of tens of thousands of people, and people loved it. and they were taking pictures and they were talking to me, and like I met all these people, like all these amazing artists, and I was just like, I felt like I belonged. It was just like very validating. And I was like, okay, like I can do this. So there have been many turning points, but that was a significant one.
Yeah. And what would you say then sort of about it? Because you said validating, but was there something maybe more that really spoke to you, or a moment or anything that made you say, no, this is where I can go?
I don't know. I think it was just I showed the art to people. I showed the pictures to people. I was in someone from the Palm Beach Post like took a really nice photo up on a ladder of me, and I was just, I don't know. I think it's just that like validation. I don't know if it was anything else, but just me showing my art to people, people liking it, people telling me I'm talented, because I tend to have that like really self-critical part of myself. And even though I like call myself an artist, sometimes I'm like, you're not actually good though, you know? So it was just this entire like 2-day festival of all of these artists having a similar experience. And like, yeah, and the validation was like great. So, and I was like, all right, now I'm on fire, let's go. So yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. And so that was the Pink Skull. Like that was, you were, describe the sort of what you were doing at that festival.
Yeah, so the idea for the pink skull, which is so weird, people ask like what it means. It literally doesn't mean anything. It came into my brain. I used to work like an 8 to 5 job, and I had a 45-minute commute. And so I spent a lot of time just like thinking, brainstorming about different art that I was going to do, etc. And just like one day I was like, I really like skulls. They're really cool. You know what's cool? Like the color pink. And I didn't even like pink that much at the time. Now it's like everything that I wear in my hair and like whatever. But at the time I was like, oh, I'm just going to draw a pink skull, like whatever, let's do it. It's creepy. And so I practiced, like I did a couple of skull paintings in preparation for the like application for the street painting festival. And yeah, and I decided to do like a background. I used these like aquamarine kind of like greens and like hunter greens and stuff as like an opposite colors on the color wheel, so it would make it like pop. But yeah, there's really, I don't know if this is disappointing, but there's really no like meaning behind it. I leave the meaning of my art up to like whoever wants to interpret it, like whatever someone feels or thinks or whatever it evokes, that's the meaning for each person, kind of thing.
Yeah, and then you were creating a massive piece. It was like essentially like a sidewalk mural. Would that be the way to put it?
Yes, yeah, it was bigger. They actually it was 8 feet by 8 feet.
Wow.
I think, yeah, it was 8 feet by 8 feet. Either that or it was 10 by 10. I think it was 8 by 8. And yeah, so they shut down the 2 main strips in downtown Lake Worth. They're both 2 like one-way streets. So they completely shut down the streets to any traffic, and then they create these like squares, or like you can apply for like a bigger piece, like a rectangle, a corner piece, whatever. And like they open up the streets, everyone can just like walk up and down the sidewalk and see all the people creating all the art in the streets. So it's like street painting festival, because we're literally all painting like the asphalt on the streets in downtown Lake Worth.
Yeah, that's very cool. And so I'm also curious then, because you mentioned sort of having that imposter syndrome and not really like connecting maybe with the community before you went there, or as much as you do now. How long have you been the painter who is making their own colors, mixing their own colors? Because that is such a, like, I feel like that's so many steps further than probably most people, but like you're so in it. Like that's awesome. Like I find that so cool, like the passion to go so deep into the space.
Yeah, well, I mean, I usually use like I'll use black, brown, and then 3 primary colors. And there's different like tones of the primary colors. Some of them will be like brighter, or I don't know. I haven't worked with paint in like a month or so I can't remember like the names exactly. But yeah, so I actually started out doing that because I remember the first paint kit that I got had like mixed colors, like one was like hooker green or something. And I just found that like I feel like I have always for some reason like had a really good grasp of color theory, and if I didn't know what was going into the colors in the tubes, I didn't know how to manipulate them to make them into the shades that I wanted. So I just decided, okay, I'm just going to use like the most basic palette and mix everything. And now, like when I do larger pieces, like when I did that piece, I did buy a couple of tubes of pink so it would be just like easier. But yeah, for the most part, I like mix my own colors. So I know what's going in it. So I know how to manipulate it, know what to add, what not to add. Because sometimes you'll start like mixing a color and you'll be like, what was there, like, this doesn't make any sense. Why did mixing those two make this one? There must be this kind of tone, this kind of pigment in here that I didn't know about,
Yeah.
So I just like to like make it all so I'm in control of it.
Oh, it makes perfect sense. So as far as I understand, you don't have any formal training in doing this. Is that right?
No, so I took a few classes in high school. I took for 3 years, I took ceramics class. So there was some kind of, not really. I mean, we glazed like the pots and stuff, which is kind of like painting. And then in high school, I took the first of the semester was drawing one, and second of the semester was painting one. But I can't remember that much painting that we actually did. Yeah, and then I went to, so it really wasn't that much. And then I went to college. My plan was to go to school for art. It didn't end up working out, which is fine because I love where I am right now. But I went and I just like did not like being told what to do or what medium to use. My professor liked like charcoal, and I can't with the charcoal. It's never been able. Maybe I can try it again sometime because I like most media that I try, but I was not able to make charcoal work. So I was just like, can't do this, and I do believe I ended up passing the class because we did do a few projects with like graphite and pencil near the end, which I was, I liked that. I was familiar with that because of my drawing class in high school. But yeah, aside from that, I haven't taken any other classes or anything. I'm just self-taught. I just draw what I see.
Yeah. So do you have any tips maybe for someone who's developing those skills and trying to learn? Because you mentioned color theory being just something that you get like innately. Are there any other paths that you maybe have gone down that you've been like, oh, this is something I need to refine, and maybe found any sort of tips? Or is it just sort of innately from doing it over time?
I think a lot of it comes from doing it, but there are some things that I noticed once I started drawing a lot more with a passion, because I'd like to draw people. I would just, throughout my life, I would be, seeing people in the grocery store, talking to my sister, and just like in my mind, I'd be present and talking to her, but I'd be like, okay, like this is how her brow bone looks. This is how it looks when her nose connects to like her cheek. And this is, oh, it's interesting. Like the bottom lip is always a little lighter than the top lip. It's like this awareness I kind of like turned on, just because I don't know, I wanted to draw better. And I was like, how do I make stuff look realistic? I just like looking at people and really trying to be like, okay, what does that look like, kind of thing. And also just a lot of practice, like putting pen to paper, putting paint to paper, and just seeing how I could like work and manipulate the paint or the pencil, how to make something darker. And just like, I don't know, I think the biggest part of it is like training my eye to not draw what I think I see, but draw what I actually see. Because like things in real life don't have an outline, like things like that, like shadows, there's like an under shadow thing that happens. There's like, I don't know. So a lot of it was like just diving in and doing the art. A lot of it was like that awareness. But honestly, like I'm so stubborn that I like refuse to look up any videos or tutorials about how to paint, because I'm like, no, I want to find it all out myself. So
sure.
I'm trying to like get over that stubbornness, because I think it just comes from like my ego. But another thing that helped is like I followed on like Instagram or other social media a lot of artists that I really admired, and especially like paid attention when they were making process videos, and just like watch how they do it. And I'm like, oh, like that's how they do it. Or even like, I feel like I'm babbling right now. So
no, not at all.
But another thing that helped is like, I absolutely love going to art museums. I can get lost in like a 2-story art museum for like 6 hours. Like it's bad. I can't even take my friends because I just like, I want to spend so much time with each painting. But like going to art museums, especially when they have like a certain exhibit about a artist, and learning how they did their stuff. Like that was like very helpful too.
Yeah, for
I
sure.
don't
And
know if that answered the question.
oh yeah, and I imagine being there too as you're analyzing a piece, for lack of a better term, really looking at it, you're seeing different things, I imagine, when it comes to light and shadow and use of color and just from observation.
Right, exactly. There's those like basic principles I think of like art and design, like composition, balance, color, shadow, like things that you had mentioned. Like familiarizing oneself with those things are really important. Like dimensionality. I guess those are like other basics that are important for artists starting out that I feel like I don't even think about them because I guess I just like really they're so ingrained in me now. But yeah, that's a good place to start as well.
Yeah. So I wanted to dive in sort of to the business side of things, and then we're going to move forward all the way to NFTs and Solana and
Right.
everything. But you started your business, was it earlier this year when you started essentially, actually, just tell me a little bit about the business and where it's at and where you started with it.
Yeah, so I had been doing commissions very casually for the last like few years, I think, and just never did it really consistently. And then I really wanted to design t-shirts and stickers because I was like, no one wants to spend $1,000 on one of my original pieces. I know that's what they're worth, but no one wants to do that. So how do I, design things that are more like marketable to people? So I decided to like officially found like an LLC,
Mhm.
and I got an iPad and I started drawing on like Procreate with an Apple Pencil, and I made stickers and t-shirts, and it was such a grind. Like such a grind, and the profit margins were so slim, but I did really enjoy like getting my stuff out there. And I was picturing myself like I was like, I know I really, really love art. I want to do this full time. And I promised myself that 1 year to the date of founding my LLC, I would quit my job. And luckily, like NFTs made it possible for me to do that like 4 months later, 4 or 5 months later,
Nice.
so that's really cool. But yeah, I founded the business, and it also like it's funny because me founding the business made it so that I wanted to like hustle more. So I was doing a lot more commissions. I do like one big part of like one big thing that I do for commissions that was like a big money maker, I guess, was like pet portraits, like acrylic painted pet portraits. And so I pretty much like had a commission to do like all the time ever since I like founded the LLC. And I was doing some like skulls for people, some like portraits, or like, oh, I want to pick a portrait of this person or whatever. So I would do that too. So it's funny. It was a way, I don't even know if it was like necessary to start the LLC itself. But it like really lit this fire under me.
Oh yeah, and it has the multi-purpose because segmenting the business, like finances and things, definitely helpful. And then also lighting that fire under you to really go full speed ahead because you have this business now. Like I think it was a great idea. And I was curious then to get those commissions because you said they were consistently coming in. How did you sort of lay that groundwork and start making the connections with your collectors?
So it was basically all through social media. I did the vast majority of like the connections with people through social media. Most everything that I've done has been for people that I know, family members, friends, acquaintances, like random people I haven't spoken to in 10 years, like wanting to order a shirt or something. So yeah, I was using like Instagram a lot for that. And it was great because like people want to post pictures of their pets. So like it would be helpful because they would post it, then their friends would see it. And it was kind of like a domino effect, and people saw me doing different animals or just different kinds of bigger or smaller frames, and so people were able to see like, oh, I can do that. I put my prices up. I was like super transparent, so I just tried to make it as easy as I could for someone to buy something, which I don't know where I picked that up, but I picked that up somewhere. Like the easier you make it for someone to buy something, the more likely they are to buy it. So I tried to like do that as well. for like my collectors, friends, and family.
Yeah. So diving into NFTs then, because you have created your entire like platform around Solana and that blockchain, which is an amazing blockchain, but it's not like the main like the ETH where not everyone, but so many people are and people focus a lot there. What initially drew you to Solana? And then I want to sort of talk about some of your experiences early on and where it's at today.
Yeah, so I actually I was first introduced to NFTs probably in January of this year. And I had a few people telling me, oh, you should really get into this. Like a couple people I was following on social media were doing it, and they were doing it on Ethereum. And I kind of like poked around a little bit and was like, this looks so confusing. Maybe one day, but like not now, and I let it go for a while. And at the same time, I had multiple like friends in real life who would not shut up about Solana. And they were posting like graphs on social media and like wearing these like pit viper glasses. And I'm like, you guys are weird. And Solana was at like $3 at the time, right? So like they were all like really invested. And it started blowing up over the summer. And just through talking to those friends, they were like, they knew like my artistic background. They had seen like a lot of the art that I had done and supported me like throughout the years. And they were like, people are starting to do NFTs on Solana. We can help you. I was like, whoa, like, because I thought like there was no way I was going to be able to do it by myself because I don't have a tech background. I don't have a coding background. Like I minted my first NFTs on like a hand-me-down from my sister, and she had gotten it secondhand from somewhere. So it was like a double generation hand-me-down. It was like 6 years old HP Chromebook, like I was not like technically savvy. So there was no way I was going to be able to do it myself. But I had this team of people who were able to onboard me. And luckily, like the space wasn't hugely like saturated like it is now. This is only like a few months ago, like in August. I think it was early August that I was onboarded. And they just pretty much like held my hand. I remember being like, I'm like too scared to post in the Discord. Can you post and ask this question for me? And they would do it. It was awesome. I was just like helped by those people so selflessly. They asked nothing in return. And that's how I was onboarded. We spent a couple hours at a coffee shop one Saturday, and I set up my shop according to like this random Google Doc that Holoplex had set up.
I heard you talking about that in the one space that I was listening to. That I find like it's so funny because we forget how early we are to all of this, that it's just a Google Doc on Google Drive somewhere, that was the way to get started. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, that Google. And it's funny because like I was trying to onboard other people throughout the process, right? Like other artists, because I got so excited about it. And I couldn't save the Google Doc because of the permissions that whoever made it had put on it. So I was screenshotting the Google Doc and like texting it to all my friends. So it's just some like random screenshot of something. And I'm like, please trust me, just do it. It's easy. Like, it's just really funny. And now like I was on Holoplex's website the other day because I was helping like onboard someone, and I was like, this is amazing. Like, you don't know what it was like back in my day 2 months ago. Like, it was the Wild West.
Yeah, and for people who aren't as familiar with Solana and that blockchain, can you describe sort of Holoplex and the experience with using it?
Yeah, I can a little bit. I do have like limited developer knowledge, so I might not be able to like fully explain it. But essentially, like what it means for me, it's a platform that's built upon another platform called Metaplex. And basically the Metaplex team, I believe it was different members of the Metaplex team, wanted to make a platform that was easier for people to use who didn't have a coding background. And so they founded Holoplex. And Holoplex is it's where you can mint your NFTs, and you can mint them and sell them for auction. You can also sell them for a fixed price, I believe now. And it was really, really easy to use in the beginning. It was pretty like clunky, but for someone with a very limited developer knowledge or development kind of coding knowledge, it was perfect for me.
Yeah, and I saw that you
Yeah.
expanded to Exchange now. I don't know how recently, but that one looks really promising as well. Because you've actually launched on there, right? With the was it Pilot Collection?
Yes, yeah, I didn't know what to call it. That was just like my first drop I ever did, so I called it like Pilot Collection. I don't know. I'm not good at naming things. I'm very creative, but only in certain ways. Like I can't come up with names. But yes, so I've explored on Exchange a little bit. I'm in the process of gathering all the information from my previous mints and everything I've ever like minted, including like derivative pieces, collaborative pieces. There's just a lot that needs to be done on the back end in order to like put stuff up there. But yes, yeah, I've put some pieces up on Exchange, and there will be more. So more is coming. But yes, I'm really excited for the future of Exchange. I love the team.
Nice.
They have a lot of visions for the future.
Yeah, and you said it takes a lot to sort of get it all there. Because I'm much more experienced with the Ethereum side of things with like collections, and it just sort of shows up in OpenSea. Like, what are some of the things you have to do to cure it? Do you have to individually select pieces? Sort of how do you get them? Not super technical, but just like from the artist perspective, like what sort of experience is that like?
Yeah, so I really don't want to butcher this, but you have to create something called like a mint hash list. And it's just a bunch of like letters and numbers that get tied to your NFT when you mint it. And it depends, I don't know what changes the numbers, what makes the numbers different, but there's like a mint authority and like an update authority. You have to go in there with like transaction IDs and stuff and pull out all this super random information. And like organize it in a JSON file, which I had no idea what that was. I still kind of don't know what that was. I was like on a video chat with one of the founders of Exchange just to get those 5 pieces up for like half an hour because I just have such limited knowledge. But yeah, so there's a lot of like metadata and just like different weird coding things you have to pull from your minting website, I believe, in order to just like enter these forms to apply to be on these like websites. So
Gotcha.
I don't know.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Really, I don't know what I'm talking about.
No. It makes sense. Like, cause I come more from the tech side of things. So like you're getting the hash of each one and then it knows. Yeah. So it's the reference point to these pieces of art that are already minted elsewhere. But yeah, it is so interesting because like it shows again, just how early everything is, because if it, like, it's going to be quicker and less, just, I don't want to say automated, but more streamlined than it is now. Because you look at, you look at like an OpenSea or even like Tezos is relatively streamlined where it all fits together, but it's still early with Solana. But Solana has so many benefits and so much upside, like in the long term as well. And with gas being crazy on Ethereum, have you noticed sort of an influx of people into Solana from the artist side?
I would say so. Yes. Yeah. I've had a few artists reach out and say that they come from Ethereum, but they've heard good things about Solana and want to hear more about it, or are releasing their next collection on Solana. I have seen a lot of that, and I've seen just like artists are coming to Solana in droves. I don't know if they're coming from Ethereum or if they're coming from like no NFT experience, but there's a lot coming over. So I'm not sure how much of that is Ethereum people, but I do know a few.
Yeah. So where do you, because you're helping people really like on board, like you mentioned, you're bringing people into the space. Where do you have people start on this journey, whether they have blockchain experience or not?
So it depends. Everyone's a little different. I usually like to, if people are really wanting to like pick my brain and really wanting help, I do like a voice chat with them, and I ask them about their art, what media they use, like what's their process, what kind of collections they have. So I just try to get a feel for like where they're at, whether they're ready to like just start putting stuff out there. And I usually recommend that they make a Holoplex store and just continue to post their art on their Twitter, I guess, and try to interact with people in the space genuinely, like not shill their stuff because no one likes that. And And yeah, it depends because everyone's different. Like some people will come to me and I can tell that they are so motivated and they're gonna like, I can point them somewhere and they will like just run with it. And some people I have to just, I don't know, be a little more gentle. I don't know what the word is, but it just depends. I kind of take each person that comes to me like in a different path depending on like where I think they're at and like whether they can be like a super motivated self-starter, kind of like have a ton of art. I'm like, okay, you need to go here, here, here. And I know that they'll do it. But there's other people that just need like either someone to talk to or someone like people will send me their art and be like, what do you think about this? I'll give them a critique. So yeah, so it really depends. And a lot of that happens in like DMs, either on Twitter or Discord, or in this Discord that I founded with a few other artists called the Solana Institute of Art. So a lot of the stuff is happening in there well. Like, and a lot of other artists are helping each other there too.
I wanted to talk about that Solana Institute of Art because I really love that from a brand perspective, encapsulating it that this is where you can go. So is it mostly an education platform where you're helping new artists, or what's the main focus you have there?
So it's actually a really funny story. It was founded by mistake. So me and these 3 other artists who were like relatively new in the Solana space were put into a group chat by one of us sometime in August. And we just started talking about doing a collaborative project. And we were like making the pieces, et cetera, doing all that kind of organization. We were like, oh, what should we call the project? And I was like, well, listen, like, it's more important. What do we call ourselves? Like, we need to be like an art collective and we need to have some kind of cool name. I really wanted like a cool name because I don't know. I nerd out about like graffiti art. And I knew that like different like not graffiti gangs, graffiti like crews had different like names. I was like, dude, we're a crew. We need like a cool name. And so someone came up with Solana Institute of Art, like as the name for our artist collective for this one project. And like, once we started posting about it, people got all these ideas of what Solana Institute of Art could be just because of the connotation from the name itself. And we were like, oh my God, now like we realize that there's a need for something like a Solana Institute of Art, where somewhere where artists can go to, to help each other out, to get onboarded, educated, to collab, etc. We were like, wow, this was not the intention, but I guess this is happening. So we released over the course of like the next like 2 months, I think we released the collaborations that we had done. And because with Holoplex, like there were so many different issues and all that kind of stuff. So we had a couple of roadblocks, but we were able to release everything. And all the while we were like wanting to do something with Solana Institute of Art, like in the future, once we had finally like done this project that we had sorted out and like worked on for months. And so once the project was like mostly done, I think there's like 8 more pieces that are going to launch on Exchange directly or on Digital Eyes directly. I'm not sure. I have to check in on that. So after setting up all that, we're like, okay, it's time to actually make the community because everyone wants it. Like whether we want to do it or not, I felt like there was no choice. I'm like, I just got to do this. And so a couple of the other artists wanted to take like less of a leadership role and more of like a participatory role and try to like help out when they can. But they were like, they just said that with everything that they were doing, they couldn't quite like step in the way that, in the way that they had either wanted to or that they felt like they were expected to. So I was like, okay, like, absolutely, like that's fine. And I just kind of stepped into this role and I'm like, I moderate this Discord, which I don't know how to do. I'm trying to get all these people to help me. But basically, to get to the point, there's different channels in there for education, for helpful links, for for collaborations, for sharing art and like all different kinds of art. So there's a channel for sharing paintings, digital art, blah, 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 all that different stuff. Place to ask questions for collectors, to look for artists. So it's just kind of like this hub. And I'm hoping that it just starts to like live and breathe as its own, so that I don't have to like be doing everything, or that I can like start trusting people to start taking more of a leadership role, because it's turning into something really beautiful. And the Discord has only been live for like a couple of weeks.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Yeah, which is crazy. But yeah, so there's really cool stuff already coming out of there, just from like we're able to foster these connections between artists, and there's just such beautiful stuff like coming out of there.
Yeah, and that is so important to give people community, whether it's collectors or artists, but especially on the business side, the artist side, to give people a place to come together and learn together and grow together and support one another. That is hugely valuable. So like I love that you almost stumbled on it, like, but it is it feels like such a great place and such a needed space for people. Have you considered like any sort of monetization or business in that world, or is it mostly just trying to help people and just onboard because for the love of Solana?
Yeah, I don't know. I'm just doing it for the love of Solana right now and for the love of art. Because the way I see it is like, if I'm making enough money to get by, that's all I need. You know what I mean? And I try to donate as much as I possibly can to charity and give as much as I possibly can back. Like, so I right now it's not something I'm looking at, but if it turns into something like, which is kind of looking like it's going in this direction where I could spend like 3 or 4 hours a day working on it. We do have like a community fund. We have a couple different community funds. One that was created with like a percentage of all of the collaborations that me and the 3 other artists did. That's a community fund. And then we have another wallet that people are just donating to help the artists. So I mean, I know that like other DAOs, like decentralized autonomous organizations, like that are built around these NFTs, actually do like hire people with their community funds. I don't know if that's something that's going to be possible. We'll see. I mean, that would be cool, but I don't know. I feel weird taking money. I just want to like make art and help people. So we'll see how it goes. I'm open to anything, because it's looking like I'm gonna have to like hire mods and like I don't know how all that stuff works. So like there's possibly going to be something with it, but it's never going to be like for profit. All that money is always going to be poured right back into the community wallets to help the artists.
Yeah, that's wonderful. And yeah, are you comfortable talking about money and sort of your side of things and how you've been able to go full time when it comes to your art and Solana? We don't have to get into like details, but I guess sort of how did you get it to the point where you're like, oh, this is a full-time income. I can leave that job just 4 months in, which is awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. And I had actually only been on Solana for like a month. And I was like, and that's when I quit. So I mean, I'm a little bit of an impulsive person. I'll definitely talk about like how I got there, but like just to preface, I'm just an impulsive person. And so I got this opportunity and I was like, I'm going all in or whatever. So what happened, what helped me make the choice was for several years, I was living in South Florida. Like when I had gotten started with NFTs, I lived there for a couple years and I didn't like the area. I didn't like the weather. I ended up there like about 4 years ago and I just like stayed accidentally, it wasn't even on purpose. And I was like, I don't even like it here. And I was stuck at a job that just had me in this weird position where like I felt like I couldn't leave because I wouldn't be able to make that much money somewhere else, but it was just not the right job for me. It was very stressful.
What type of work were you doing?
I was doing like administrative work in an oncologist's office. So it was just very high pressure. It was tough because like every single case was like a very urgent case because these patients are dealing with cancer. And so it was very hard to prioritize and be able to like pay enough attention to all of these different patients, like cases and things that I was managing for them, because every single one of them was super important and super urgent. So it was just a very, very stressful environment for me. So with
And
the
not
combination of
creative. Like
not
it doesn't
creative at
like
all. Oh
scratch
my
that
gosh.
itch.
It
Yeah.
was horrible. It was horrible. Like the most creative thing I did is I had like amazing like highlighters and markers and post-it notes. And so I tried to make it fun, but no, it was just not, it just like wasn't the right place for me. It served its purpose like in my life and in my career, but it wasn't the right place for me. So I was stuck in like between a rock and a hard place. I don't know. I was like, I have this job I don't like and I live somewhere I don't like. What the hell am I doing? So I started to apply to different positions within my company, which had like different satellite offices all around the US. And I applied to one in a completely different state. And I was just like running with it and saying like whatever. And at the same time that I was doing that, I was like networking with these NFT people on Twitter and like preparing for my first auction. And my very first auction was that one that I talked about that was like glitched and funny. And I don't even consider it my first auction because it sold for like 0.2 Solana and I didn't even know that it sold. It was a whole mess. So my first like official auction, I had a piece go for 34 Solana. Nice. And at the time, I think Solana was at like $110 or something. And then I had several other pieces to where like the total I made during that first auction was like 60 Solana. And I was like, holy shit.
Yeah.
I was working like an office job, like without a college education. I was being paid enough to like scrape by, put a little in savings. Like I wasn't uncomfortable, but I felt like I was like a slave to the 9 to 5 or the 8 to 5 or whatever. So I was just absolutely floored by that first auction. I got very lucky. I had a couple of people like just bid like crazy. And at that point, I was like, maybe this is possible that I can do this full time. And within like a week and a half after that, I had quit the job. And I was like, nope, I'm just like, I was doing a lot of commissions as well. People liked my like style of art. I was doing derivatives of different NFTs commissions. And I was like, I can make as much in a day on Solana as I would normally make in like 2 weeks at my office job. You know what I mean? So I was like, I was like, I was like, it was so freeing. And then I decided to not only quit my job, but not take the job that was out of state that I actually got. Mm-hmm. I was given that job and I accepted it. It was this weird, I was in this like weird, like transitionary phase. And so I was like, no, but I'm going to move there anyway, because I don't like Florida. And so I left. And so I moved to that city and I love it. And I don't have to work my office job and I'm just like doing NFTs. And I'm not making like an insane amount of money, but I'm making enough to get by. I can give to charity and I can help other people. And that's what I care about.
Yeah. And that's what's so important is finding the things that matter most to you and creating the lifestyle that satisfies those, that checks as many boxes, I guess, as you can. Like that's wonderful. I think it's a great story. And especially like you made a lot of changes at once. That's a scary time, like for anyone. But you saw the opportunity and you went with it, and like now we're here, and you're consistently creating, and like you're immersed in this space in a way that you're connecting with so many people and bringing people into it and giving more people opportunity. It's wonderful. I love it.
Yeah, it's really great.
Yeah.
I love it.
With those first auctions, do you know the people who bought? Did they was there a way that you connected with them that, because that's always the hardest thing. How do you make your first sale, especially in NFTs, because there's so many people now and there's a lot going on?
Yeah, so it depends. I sold like 5 pieces and I'm pretty sure different people took most of the pieces. So it went to like, I think 4 different people. One person might've gotten 2 of them. But a few of them were people I had met on a Discord that I'm not sure is active much anymore now, but it was early on, called like NFTs on Solana or something. So it was like these OG kind of like people that had been in Solana for like 6 months and were like OG
yeah.
or like 2 months. This was back in August. And so some of them were people in there that I had seen and that I had talked to through the onboarding process. And a couple of people were just people that had found me on Twitter because I was posting my art before I was posting any NFTs. I decided to just post some of my art stuff to see if people would connect with it. And someone connected with one of my pieces. It was a skull piece, and they said that it just like reminded them of like a near death experience that they had had the year prior. And it reminded them to like, seize the day and like take, be grateful for the days that you have, et cetera. So it meant a lot to like that one person. And so there were bidding wars between all of these people. And that's what drove the price up. And so I do speak occasionally to some of them, and just, see them around on the Twitter space.
Yeah. And yeah, I think that is something about skulls that does speak to people, because like I have a tiny little collection just trying to find my way through illustration. I called it Live Before You Die because it's sort of that memento mori, like having a skull.
Yes.
Yeah. So it's like reminding, like just skulls in general just tend to remind us of our mortality and how we only have so much time. So what are we actually doing with the time that we have? Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. So that just really resonated deeply with one person, and they were like, all right, I'll pay you 35 Solana for it, which today is like, I don't know, $7,000. I was like, what the hell? Like, it was just like completely life-changing for me.
For sure.
And that's so cool that like something that I made can resonate so much with someone. That's Absolutely. Like so cool to me and like mind blowing. I'm like, pinch me,
Yeah. So now, where you're at right now, do you have any sort of consistent like production schedule, like release schedule of new drops, or how are you approaching the business side of NFTs today?
So for a while, so after I had those first two really, successful auctions, I was connecting with a lot of people in the NFT space, and I realized there were a lot of artists that I could like collaborate with, which is really cool. It's something I've always wanted to do with like my in real life artist friends, but I don't think it ever really panned out. So I decided to do a lot of collaborations, which was a lot of fun, and do a lot of commissions. And I just realized that's where like a lot of money was. And so I was wanting to like make a little money, save a little money, because I knew I was moving. And so that's what I did for the majority of September, I think. And I was just putting off like my new project, not sure when I was going to drop it, but knew that it was coming in the future. I was having a lot of trouble with Holoplex and minting and putting anything up. And there were so many bugs, like the website wouldn't even load. So I decided to put my own stuff on hold until the bugs stopped. So I did a ton of commissions, a ton of derivatives, and I just like closed my commissions, I think about a week and a half ago. And I'm almost completely done with everything that I had promised people that I would do. And now I'm just focusing on my own thing. And honestly, like there's no real structure to it. I kind of just not wait for inspiration, but like seek out the inspiration and ride that wave and wing it and experiment. And it's crazy. Like I've been given so much freedom through the opportunities I've been given through NFTs that there's not like a lot of pressure, even though there's pressure to create art, which is something I haven't necessarily felt in a lot of my experiences. It's just been like me making art for me or me making art for someone else as a commission. But now there's like pressure of me making art that's original from me. I'm like, I don't know. So I'm dealing with that a little bit, but yeah, there's no real structure. I kind of just wing it, really.
Oh yeah, and nothing wrong with that at all. I mean, does it feel different now that you are, because I'm sure you're still doing like paint and acrylic and everything as well, but now that NFTs is such a big side, like I saw that you had written how you almost felt like digital was cheating because you were doing things so in such an analog way and mixing your own colors and everything like we talked about. Do you have any sort of different feelings now that you're really you've immersed yourself in both analog and digital space?
Yeah, I think I'm like probably a lot more critical of myself now, because when I was just creating art to create art, it was just me putting whatever I want to on paper, and I didn't care. People could take it or leave it. Like, I don't care if you like it or not, kind of thing. But now it's like, I'm holding myself to a higher standard, because I know that now I have this audience of people that has liked my work previously, and and I have these collectors that I want to, provide value for, and I have, I'm like, there is like a bit more pressure, I guess you could say, just in a different way.
Oh yeah, it makes sense because like now you're also in complete control of your destiny, which is liberating and can induce anxiety at the same time. It's like it's the best of both worlds. I mean, because it really like you're in control, but also being in control is a little can be daunting at times. But I love that everything you're building, the community you're building, and how you're helping people along on their similar journey. Like I feel like you're just setting yourself up for like a very, very bright future with all of it, just to continue on because you're the community builder and the artist all wrapped into one. So yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, as long as I can just continue to create art and like make enough money to get by, I'm happy. Like,
yeah, for sure.
That's what I'm going to continue to do.
Nice. So I really appreciate you taking the time to dive into everything. For people listening, where should we send them to follow along with what you're up to, everything you're creating?
Yeah, so on Twitter, my Twitter username is @highshowers. There's a story behind that as well. I don't know if we have time to talk about that.
I mean, I am curious. I was curious where that name came from.
We could talk about it in a second. And then on Instagram, it's just Bridget Merkle Artist. And I'm releasing pieces on exchange.art under my name, Bridget Merkle.
Nice. Very cool.
But the high showers comes from, I made this Twitter apparently like 8 years ago when I used to smoke a lot of weed and just go into the shower and have these thoughts, and I wanted to write them down on Twitter. So apparently I was doing that, forgot about the Twitter for like years, and I go to make another Twitter because my NFT friends told me have to make a Twitter if you're getting into Solana, and Twitter told me you already have a username. It's High Showers. I was like, what is this? Like I completely blocked it from my mind. And then I was like, you know what? I'm going to keep it. It's funny. And now it's like, it's just who I am. Like, I can't leave it now. It's like my brand, even though like, I don't smoke weed. I don't like do any of that anymore. So it's just really funny. And it's like an inside joke I have with myself.
Well, yeah. And I like that it's the username, but then you still have the brand of Pink Skull like on top of it. So you're able to layer it in a way that's interesting. And it adds that mystery, because I was very curious because I assumed it would be Pink Skull. Then I went to type it and I was like, wait, this is not Pink Skull.
Something totally different. Yeah, I'm like in a naming crisis right now because I have High Showers and Pink Skull, and going by my full name, I don't know what I'm going to do. I'm going to run in one direction or the other. I just have to figure that out.
Yeah, for sure. Like what's in the balance between using your name or like Pink Skull? Sort of where are you falling?
I don't think Pink Skull has a nice ring to it. I don't think it like evokes a lot of, I don't know. It comes down to me not being able to name things very well. Like I just like call something what it is. Like that is a pink skull, but it doesn't it doesn't roll off the tongue. It doesn't, it's just, I don't think it's a intriguing name very much. So I'd love to come up with something else, but I just like can't. So I think I might just like go with my full name and do kind of like a slow transition into that, but I'll still draw pink skulls forever because I love them.
I want to thank Bridget for joining me on this episode. Be sure to follow everything she's up to at High Showers on Twitter, and definitely check out the Solana Institute of Art. If you're an artist or creative curious about diving into the Solana blockchain, that'll be a great spot to, as she mentioned, to connect with other artists and get onboarded into this amazing opportunity that's presented right now. As always, this episode of Starting Now is brought to you by Built. At Built, we help you get started online. Whether you want to start a blog or a business, head on over to built.co. That's BYLT.co to get started. Built, your website, built for you, simply. Finally, if you're enjoying the show, I'd love it if you gave this episode a thumbs up and subscribed. It really means a lot and helps me reach more people, and that's really the whole point. I want to connect with as many people as I can and help share these origin stories to help you along your journey, because everyone's path is unique. And I think the more people that I get to talk to and share their path with you, the more value I think this show can add. So yeah, thanks again. Well, that'll do it for this week. Again, I'm Jeff Sarris. This has been Starting Now, and I'll see you next time.